Remember Riley from Fear the Walking Dead? No? Well, he's got a 40-minute episode on AMC Plus now about his backstory, which is a prequel to the prequel series. The Walking Dead presents Fear the Walking Dead, Dead in the Water, The Walking Dead Origins Riley, The World Beyond, and Knuckles. And in this video, I'm going to be showing my thoughts on Dead in the Water, and it will contain spoilers for the entire spin-off, so please do keep that in mind. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin. Fear the Walking Dead, Dead in the Water is a one-off 40-minute episode about Riley's backstory, and I believe that originally this was made up of like 6 or 7 different webisodes, about 6 or 7 minutes long, but it's now been put together into one 40-minute episode on AMC+. Now, Riley as a character was never really around on Fear the Walking Dead for all that long. I think he was in Season 6 for like 6 episodes, and then he appeared once in Season 7 as a cameo as a walker, so it's kind of strange that in the year 2022, AMC were like, yep, we really need an episode about Riley's backstory. We really need to do that. Like, why? I don't know, it just feels really strange. I mean, what's next? A 40-minute episode about the backstory of James? What do you mean you don't know who James is? It's James. Oh, Jamesy boy. The Walking Dead Wikia says he's a previous antagonist. Come on, how could you forget a previous antagonist? AMC, give me that James spin-off now. Anyway, putting my sarcasm aside for one moment, I have to say, I actually enjoyed Dead in the Water.
What?
Yeah, I know, surprising, right? I mean, this is a 40-minute episode about a character who I never particularly cared about. You know, I always felt that in Season 6, him and Teddy's cult, they were just kind of wasted, and that plot, you know, was kind of rushed through too quickly. I would have liked it if they stuck around a bit longer, so I never really had any attachment to Riley. So, you know, I wasn't exactly excited to watch this, but it's actually pretty good. It's not bad at all. It's far better than Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know why Fear the Walking Dead can't be more like this. After I finished Dead in the Water, I wanted to look at whether this was written by someone who hadn't been working on Fear the Walking Dead before. Maybe this was written by a new writer, which is why it turns out okay. But no, it turns out that it was actually written by a dude named Jason Pinion, I believe. And this guy wrote the episodes, or co-wrote the Season 7 episodes, Cindy Hawkins and Sunny Boy, which I absolutely detest. So it's kind of strange that Dead in the Water has turned out okay, whereas those Season 7 episodes were horrid. I don't know, maybe it's because he has the sole writing responsibilities for this, so it's just all him? Or, you know, maybe he was given more kind of responsibility and given more leeway to do what he wanted as opposed to the episodes he wrote on Fear the Walking Dead. I don't know, who knows? But, yeah, it turns out this is actually a decent story. I liked it. And I'll tell you what, one of the most refreshing things about Dead in the Water is that the characters don't talk like morons. Hooray for dialogue that doesn't make me cringe. I'm so happy. Look, I know this isn't something that I should really be celebrating. I mean, the minimum you'd expect from a TV show is for its characters' dialogue to not be terrible, right? But, you know, considering what I've had to put up with in Fear the Walking Dead, where every episode characters talking cliches, and yeah, they just talk absolute fucking nonsense all the time, this was a godsend. I was like, wow, it's so nice to watch something that actually has characters that sound like human beings, and don't sound like, you know, someone had just printed off some bloody Chinese proverbs off the internet and fed it into their script. It's nice that they actually sound like real people. You know, and admittedly, the characters on this show, they're not particularly well developed because it's only a 40-minute episode and it has to kind of get through a lot. But, you know, even though the side characters aboard the sub weren't at all developed, I actually found myself liking them more than the characters on Fear the Walking Dead because they didn't sound like morons. I actually liked them because they didn't piss me off every time they spoke. I'm not saying that this episode's dialogue is like, you know, Shakespearean, but it's a vast improvement on Fear the Walking Dead, that's for sure. So in terms of the episode's narrative, I mean, it's pretty formulaic. I mean, anyone can guess what's going to happen. You can tell what's going to happen in the first 5 minutes of this episode. You know, Riley and his friends, they're on a sub, his crewmates are on a sub, and they don't know about the Walker outbreak yet. They don't know anything about the Walkers, so of course what's going to happen is that one of them's going to die, and they're going to eat people. The people who get bitten, they're not going to know that they can get infected that way, so then they're going to eat more people, and of course it's all going to go to shit. Like I said, you can work that out, you know, during the first 5 minutes of this episode, but it was still enjoyable. I didn't particularly care that, you know, there weren't many surprises in the scripts because, yeah, I didn't mind it being a simple script because they told the story well. I also actually enjoyed watching an episode set in the Walking Dead universe in which the characters didn't know what walkers were because they felt scary again. They were a threat. Whereas, currently in Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead, the characters can just kind of steamroll their way through walkers and take them out with ease. So, yeah, I like that. And, maybe that means the Walking Dead anthology series, Tales of the Walking Dead, I might actually enjoy when that comes out, because I imagine that's going to be set at the start of the apocalypse as well. I particularly like this one scene where this dude is so scared of the walkers that he's there like cowering and his gun's shaking. And then one of his friends like reaches out to touch him, and he like instinctively shoots his friend in the gut because he's so paranoid that that's actually a walker. And I really like that because it just showed how terrified the characters were in that situation. I also liked how before each part of this episode, because like I said previously, I think there were 6 different webisodes initially, it comes up with like a screen of text, or well, it's a screen and there's like text at the bottom, and it says how many people are aboard the ship, the Pennsylvania I think it's called. And, obviously at the start of the episode, there's like 200 and something. And after each part, which is like 5 or 6 minutes, the number just keeps going down. It keeps going down because they're all getting killed. And I know it's only just a number on a screen, but I think that did a really good job of, setting the scene and, yeah, making me feel tense and on edge. And, yeah, like I said, it's only a number, but it gave you a sense of dread because every time it came up, you were thinking, oh shit, more of these people are dead. There's more walkers. Oh my God. Obviously, with this episode being about Riley's backstory, we learn more about him in this episode than we ever did on Fear the Walking Dead. It turns out that he has a wife and he has his son, who I believe is like a newborn or a young son. And at the end of the episode, his commanding officer orders him to fire a nuke at Chicago, which is where his family is, and he refuses to do so, which is kind of ironic considering that he was part of Teddy's group who ended up firing nukes. But I guess that just goes to show you how much his character fell from grace after this episode, and yeah, how kind of dark and twisted his mind went after everything that happened to him. It's still kind of just strange that this episode exists. I mean, I really think that Riley should have been given more time on Fear the Walking Dead, and Teddy should have been given more time. Like I said earlier, I think they just rushed through that part of the story. And maybe if, Riley had become a bigger character and he'd stuck around for at least a season and been in more episodes, then you could have just had this episode be in the main show, be in Fear the Walking Dead, and have it be just an episode about his backstory and about how he met Teddy. I think it would have fit in quite nicely. So I like this episode, but I think that a kind of a negative point to come from it is that after watching it and seeing how much potential Riley had, it kind of makes me pissed off that he was just underutilized in season 6 and that he died in such a shit way, because yeah, this episode showed that he could have been a decent story and, he could have been a good addition to Fear the Walking Dead, but they just didn't make the most of him. Anyway, now I want to talk about some minor gripes that I have with Dead in the Water. So there's a scene in which Riley is trying to make his way past the walkers and they're all feeding on this dead body. So what Riley does is like he sounds an alarm which causes this light to flash and causes the noise to go off. So all the walkers then leave this body and head towards the light source and, the source of noise. And yeah, it's just kind of, it contradicts itself. I mean, this isn't Dead in the Water's fault particularly. This isn't the first example of the Walking Dead universe being contradictory with its rules regarding walkers. But, I remember in Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 that Sanjay said, walkers will always choose a meal over anything else. They will always choose a meal. If there's a meal there, they will go to that meal instead of going to a noise. But in this episode, they just go to the noise. And again, I'm being very nitpicky here because this is something which, The Walking Dead does all the time. It kind of changes its rules regarding walkers whenever the story needs it, whenever the story deems it fit to do so. And it's kind of annoying. I just wish that the Walking Dead universe as a whole was more consistent, regarding its rules when it comes to walkers. Pierce's death also just annoyed me because it was just bloody stupid. So basically, him and Riley are like standing outside this door. They get split up and then they reunite outside this door. And Pierce just stands there, like, in front of the door talking to Riley. Like, there's walkers everywhere. Go through the fucking door, man. He just stands there, outside the door. And of course what happens is that whilst he's there talking outside the door, having a nice little chat, a walker comes up behind him and bites him on the leg. Just go through the door, man. It was such an avoidable, stupid death. I think it would have been better if when Pierce reunited with Riley, it turned out he was already bitten. So, instead he's like, I'm going to stay behind. I'm going to stay here. You go through and I'll sacrifice myself. That would have made more sense because as it stands, he just dies because he acts like an idiot. I also absolutely detested the part at the end where Riley spoke to his wife on the phone. That was just an example of terrible writing, that wouldn't fill out a place in Fear the Walking Dead. It was so bad. So basically what happens is the sub kind of washes up on shore. Riley gets out of the submarine and then he gets onto the beach and phones up his wife. So he's on the mobile phone, his wife picks up, and his wife goes, "Oh, it's so nice to see you. Oh, Riley, I can't hold them any longer. They're coming. We're going to die. Ah!" And then, like, the baby's screaming, which, insinuates that the baby dies as well. So you're telling me that Riley's wife and child survived the entire time he was on the boat, and then just when he happens to get off the boat and is able to make a call to her, she picks up and dies. What are the chances of that? What are the chances? Oh man, I just fucking hated this. This is the kind of stuff that happens in Fear the Walking Dead, where you get all these coincidences and, a story which is based on convenient things happening at just the right time. This is exactly that. I just can't believe she'd survive all this time just to then die, at the exact moment that he is able to talk to her, because he wasn't able to talk to her when he's on the sub. It's fucking atrocious writing. I hated this. I hated it. Yeah, so unfortunately, Dead in the Water can't avoid making some of the same mistakes that Fear the Walking Dead does, but overall, it entertained me. It was certainly more entertaining than anything that I've seen of Fear the Walking Dead so far this season. I liked it. It's not a masterpiece. There are mistakes, there are things that annoy me, but it's so much better than Fear the Walking Dead, and I enjoyed watching it. I liked it. It's not something I expected to get anything out of. It's not something I expected to like, because like I said, I never particularly cared about Riley. I just kind of felt it was a bit random making a 40-minute episode about his character, but they did a good job with this. It was enjoyable, and I'd be open to watching more of this type of stuff in the future. I'd certainly would rather watch this than another season of Fear the Walking Dead. So, yeah, I thought it was decent. I liked it. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you seen Dead in the Water? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Or maybe you haven't watched it? Or will you watch it at some point in the future? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know, and I shall see you all very soon. Take care. Goodbye.